and welcome to my rank order for the 4 adaptations of Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca that I'm aware of. In 4th and very much last place is the 2020 Netflix film. This one sort of got worse and worse as it went on. It starts by telling the story from the book, mainly with its own, in my opinion, rather clunky dialogue. As you can expect from productions nowadays, it had several embellishments at that point. Maxim building a sandcastle on the protagonist's back, seeing people having it off on their boat through the magnoscope thing.
Was it people having it off? Yeah.
Having it off themselves before they decided to get married, all rather unnecessary, I think.
That's your secretary.
And then once they get to Manderley, things deteriorate further. I shall mention Jasper's mum, the old spaniel, every time, I think, and in this one she's there, but she's not used at all. She wanders about or sits with Jasper. No one acknowledges her. She seems to be invisible, and then she disappears. What is the point of that? Beatrice is a character that really struck me in the book. I wasn't sure to what extent she was really nice. She was difficult to read, and then when she's comforting Mrs. De Winter about what happens at the ball with her costume, I thought, oh yes, she is genuinely really, really nice. And I didn't get that here. She starts off too nice, and then in that scene where I had the realization changes to tough love and isn't really nice enough, Mrs. De Winter admits to breaking the China Cupid in Mrs. Danvers' presence, undermines her diffidence and how she's intimidated by Mrs. Danvers. Maxim sleepwalks to the West Wing. That is horrifically overdramatic. Mrs. Danvers is incredibly duplicitous over that whole thing with the costume. It's really, really calculated, and it's too much. And then when you get to the inquest, everything spirals out of control, in my opinion. It's overly dramatic, extremely unrealistic. This character, Inspector Welch, suddenly appears and is on Maxim like the plague. He really wants to get him. I mean, why? It's treated as a criminal court rather than a coroner's inquest, except Maxim has no chance to speak. That boat expert should be there revealing the scuttling, and they didn't even use Ben. Well, I suppose Ben saying I never saw no one wouldn't serve their purposes, would it? After that, Maxim tries to blackmail Jack Favell, but Jack Favell pursues the accusation anyway. That's the absolute opposite of the real story. Maxim will not give in to blackmail. Once he thinks he's caught, he lets events play out, prepared to hold up his hands and say, okay, you found the proof, I will go to the gallows. We know, of course, that events turned out rather luckily for him, don't we? But during that denouement, where they're finding out that Rebecca was not pregnant but terminally ill, the actions of Mrs. De Winter are absolutely unbelievable in terms of fidelity to the book and the impact on the story. If you're going to go stealing patient records, having lied your way into the building, that's not all above board, is it? I mean, what were they trying to do? Give the character more agency? Make it more modern? It is sacrilege, in my opinion, to rewrite the Last Night I Dreamt passage. And throughout all this, it is very heavy-handed with the people making Mrs. De Winter uncomfortable. Maxim's gran, Mrs. Danvers with what she actually says out loud, Jack Favell coming on very strong. Maxim himself is absolutely horrible. Frith is actually looking down his nose at her. There's no way Daphne du Maurier meant that. All the people in Monte Carlo are doing class discrimination, and it all totally misses the point about this paranoid narrator, the misconceptions in the narrative voice. And it is honestly a vicious circle that is killing nuance. Creators don't put it in their work, so audiences don't get it. Audiences don't get it, so creators won't put it in their work. In third place is the 1940 theatrical film. Whilst I have every respect for Alfred Hitchcock, I do feel that the script of this one messes about too much with the source material. Some of that is the fault of the Hays Code. Maxim cannot have killed Rebecca in 1940 and get a happy ending. So here's what we're saying happened.
Then she started toward me again, smiling. Suddenly she stumbled and fell. When I looked down, ages afterwards it seemed, she was lying on the floor. She'd struck her head on a heavy piece of ship's tackle.
Hey Maxim, if it was an accidental death, there's really no need to go dumping the body. And also, which nobody points out, if she hit her head, then there would have been skull damage. But of course we just gloss over that, don't we? Beatrice, I think, is well done to begin with, and I was rather looking forward to that costume party scene. But then they don't follow through with it. She doesn't comfort Mrs. De Winter. Very disappointing. I'm afraid, even though he is played by the great Laurence Olivier, I don't like Maxim in this. I think Mrs. De Winter, played by Joan Fontaine, who I do think is very good, before she is Mrs. De Winter, gets too many red flags before deciding to marry him. Some of those are partly early 20th century things, snatching the tennis racket off her and saying, well, you're not playing tennis, you're coming with me. And then his performance when he's worrying about the inquest. Look, it's difficult. I don't really like being mean about Laurence Olivier, but he did come across to me as a sort of sulky child who's been caught out. And then I do just have this rather long list of other things I don't like. Some cine films from their honeymoon is playing during that I suppose that's why you married me sequence. There couldn't be any gossip. As well as being unnecessary and distracting, it stops it making sense when she says she said it just for something to say. You're watching the cine film. You don't have to say anything. Mrs. Van Hopper actually waiting in the taxi and Joan Fontaine wearing her hat and coat when she is rushing to say goodbye to Maxim and then deciding to marry him. All feels rather hectic, unnecessarily so. She suddenly gets her confidence around Mrs. Danvers for no particular reason. It's supposed to be after she finds out that Maxim didn't love Rebecca. They do use Ben with his I never saw no one, but he's a witness at the inquest. I prefer that be true to the book and be afterwards at Mandalay on the orders of Jack Favell. Mrs. Danvers wasn't supposed to know Rebecca had been to a doctor. This film's a bit too lazy to bother with the appointment book investigation. It's not Mrs. Danvers on the house phone with that Mrs. De Winter's been dead for over a year bit. Little things that really add up make me overall not like this film personally. A couple of positives. The characters are generally accurate and well done. The 2020 film sets the bar that low, I'm afraid. My favourite thing about it, it does make proper use of Jasper's mum, clearly missing Rebecca and resenting the presence of the new Mrs. De Winter. Having said that, casual viewers probably wouldn't notice the difference between her and Jasper. In black and white, the colour difference is very subtle and they never appear on screen together. In second place is the 1979 BBC TV miniseries, which is very, very much in keeping with all those 70s BBC adaptations, which are overall faithful but rather flat. They more or less pick up the book, stick it on the screen, don't seem to put a great deal of thought into interpreting the lines or thinking much about adapting for the medium. Having said that, there always seem to be silly little changes for me to pick at. In this case, Jasper's mum is there, but you get no sense of what she's feeling, except maybe why have they put me here where everyone keeps walking. Mrs. De Winter dobs in Mrs. Danvers having Jack Favell to visit. That's not in the book. She keeps her word on that. She doesn't take control and advise Maxim when he's told her what happened to Rebecca. I feel like that's a really important moment in the book. This shy, diffident character with absolutely no confidence really comes into her own when she finds out she's got to help cover up a murder. Jack Favell revealing his letter from Rebecca is very careless, handing it round to everyone. Maxim has already murdered Rebecca. Why would he scruple to return the incriminating letter. And then after they see the doctor, it misses out for Vel saying to Max, you got away with it, there's your motive for suicide. And whilst I do like subtext and not spelling things out, I do think it's quite good to have that made very, very clear, along with Favel's reaction, his anger. I mean, he's not wrong, is he? Maxim did get away with murder. Of all the adaptations, I feel that this one makes the most thorough use of Beatrice. I like the interpretation. She's very kind at the ball, and before that she is quite difficult to read, but I was disappointed that she doesn't say the line, you're not a bit like Rebecca. I really want to see someone say that ambiguously so that Mrs. De Winter can reasonably take it the wrong way. Frith is also quite difficult to read. I think that works well. Reading the book, I was always sure that he meant to be kind. In Hitchcock and the adaptation coming up, he clearly is kind, and that's fine. Difficult to read is good as well for that point of view of Mrs. De Winter. I like Anna Massey as Mrs. Danvers. Maybe I'm a little bit prejudiced because I already knew her from a long time ago. She was in something I watched as a child. In keeping with the whole production, she isn't as creepy as others during that tour of Rebecca's room and her things that she keeps out. And Joanna David's Mrs. De Winter, in turn, doesn't seem particularly creeped out by it, which may not necessarily be a bad thing if you like things to be understated. I could really go for a bit more creepiness in that scene personally, but then that other scene between them in that room, you're the ghost, Mrs. Danvers really losing it, that scene for me is a highlight. I think it's very well done, and I do approve of the overall faithfulness. It just makes those little things all the more irritating. And finally, in first place, is the 1997 TV miniseries. I feel that this is an overall faithful adaptation with a good, strong cast and not a bit flat. More in the style of everything 90s. It was ITV rather than BBC. It does make some changes from the book where you can see what they were thinking. Strangling rather than shooting Rebecca makes a certain amount of sense. It feels more kind of spur of the moment fit of anger, and you don't need to consider how lucky it was that the bullet didn't touch the skeleton. When Amelia Fox as Mrs. De Winter breaks the China Cupid, it's whilst trying to put her own stamp on the place, bring in some flowers or something.
Yeah.
Most of these adaptations embellish the ending with some more detail. Not 1979, they don't make big changes like that, the 70s BBC thing, but this one really heaps on the Jane Eyre parallels, with Maxim going into the burning mansion to save someone who has been a bit of a nuisance and being injured as a result. How much do I disapprove of that? I'm not very sure. I like the production overall. I think it's a big change to make, but I'm gonna overlook it. We only get Jasper in this one. We don't get his mum at all. Again, I get that. Getting a second spaniel and asking her not to do method acting, I can see might be a bit of trouble. This is the only production in which I like Maxim. Charles Dance is actually nice to Amelia Fox, even when he's losing his temper a little bit and being cagey about the past. It doesn't seem like those negative feelings are directed at her. Although I like this one, I still don't get my Beatrice moment, because she is clearly nice from the beginning. She's very, very lovely to Mrs. De Winter about the costume debacle, but there's no surprise there because she was very, very nice before and clearly didn't like Rebecca.
You're not a bit like Rebecca.
But I want to end on a positive. Heap some praise on one performer in particular, Jonathan Cake. He actually made me feel really bad for Jack Favel. Possibly some might see that as a bad thing, as he's such a villain. But, you know, he's not wrong, is he? Maxim did murder Rebecca. Favel, I believe, from this production and this performance, did love Rebecca. And the way he reacts to the gynecologist's news, bravo! Give that man a BAFTA, that's what I say. And we're done with my opinions on the adaptations of Rebecca. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. She's very, very lovely to Rebecca. No, she's very, very lovely to Mrs. De Winter about the